If you've ever had a close friend for 2 decades, someone who knows every twist and turn of your life as well as they know their own, then you'll understand why I didn't heed my husband's warning that day. This story isn't easy to tell, but if you've ever chosen to trust someone despite all the signs pointing to doubt, then perhaps this story is also a part of you. Before I begin, if this story resonates with you in any way, please hit the follow button on the channel to stay updated with the next parts. We're about to embark on a journey where the truth isn't just found in actions, but in the silences between lies. The weather that day was ridiculously beautiful, as if nature itself was complicit in hiding something. I looked up at the pale blue sky streaked with wisps of white clouds as our car turned onto the tree-lined road leading to Emily's house. Clusters of lavender balloons swayed in front of her door, greeting guests as if whispering a sweet blessing. I smiled. She always knew how to make everything perfect. Emily and I had been friends since I was 6 years old. We grew up together in a small town near Salem, Oregon, then went to college in different states, but stayed in touch through letters, emails, and late-night calls. Now in our 30s, Emily was about to become a mother for the first time, and I, despite being practical and cautious, couldn't suppress my excitement at the thought. David, my husband, was silent for most of the drive. As an obstetrician, he wasn't as emotional as I was. But that morning, his silence wasn't due to exhaustion from a shift. It was a wary silence, I noticed it, when he adjusted his collar. His eyes scanning the cars parked along the crowded street. "She said it was just a small party," I muttered, eyeing the number of cars. "Half the town must be here." David didn't respond immediately. When he parked in front of the house, draped in purple and cream ribbons, he turned to me, his eyes strange. "Are you sure everything's okay?" I laughed, grabbing the gift basket from my lap, trying to brush off the odd feeling in my chest. "It's just Emily. She never does anything halfway." We stepped onto the white stone porch. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Anna Emily's voice rang out. She appeared like she'd stepped out of a maternity magazine, a pastel pink maxi dress, a flower crown in her golden hair, her round belly prominent. Her eyes sparkled, her smile perfect. I handed the gift basket to David and threw my arms around her. Emily leaned into the hug, careful not to let her belly touch mine. "Careful, don't scare the little one." We laughed as we had so many times before, but something about the way she placed her hand on her belly, too precise, too performative, made me pause. David stood behind me, his eyes scanning the living room, decorated like a TV drama, lavender flowers, scented candles, a neon pink sign proclaiming, "It's a girl and a bartender pouring mocktails." "Looks like a wedding planner's event," he whispered. I nudged him lightly. "Relax, it's a happy day." Emily led us on a tour past the gift table through the living room, where guests were writing wishes for the baby girl. The crowd was lively, everyone cheerful, but I started to notice David wasn't blending in as usual. Normally charming and talkative, he was silent today. We were invited upstairs to see the nursery. That's where things got strange. The second bedroom had been transformed into a fairy tale forest. Painted walls, a white wooden crib, a sparkling crystal chandelier. The bookshelf was filled with children's stories. I was in awe, but I couldn't help thinking about the cost. Emily answered immediately. Most of it was sponsored by donors from my nonprofit. They gave it for product promotion. David frowned. I saw him discreetly snap photos of the room. When I looked at him, he quickly pocketed his phone as if caught. The party continued with games cake and group photos, but David grew more distant. When I pulled him aside and asked quietly, he said something that chilled me. "We need to leave. Something's not right." "David, this is Emily's baby shower. My best friend for 20 years. I can't." "Please, get in the car and I'll explain." I didn't understand, but his eyes were deadly serious. We made excuses to leave early, and as we drove away, I glanced back through the rearview mirror where the purple balloons still danced in the breeze, and a quiet dread spread through my chest. For the first time, I was starting to doubt Emily. If you've ever felt the moment when trust begins to crack, when the impossible becomes suspicious, you might understand why this story isn't just about a party. It's about the things we don't want to see and are eventually forced to confront. Before I continue, if you're following this story, please hit the follow button or leave a comment. I want to know, have you ever doubted someone close to you? What made you start to see it? Join me on this journey because the truth, as I learned, often comes not in explosions but in silences. On the drive home, our car sped through the soft golden light of spring, past trees shedding white petals. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. I kept my hands on my lap fingers, twisting slightly while David gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Finally, I broke the silence. Tell me, why did you pull me out like we were fleeing a crime scene? David didn't turn his eyes fixed on the road. Emily isn't pregnant. I let out a short, joyless laugh. What's wrong with you? I just hugged her, saw her belly. You saw a belly, he cut in his voice, calm but low. But it's not a 7-month pregnant belly. I turned to him fully. David, she's my best friend. You're insulting her. I know. He spoke slowly. And I wish I were wrong. But you know as well as I do, a woman 7 months pregnant doesn't look like that. Did you see her feet? No swelling. Her face isn't heavier. Her features unchanged. You've counseled countless women with prenatal depression. Have you ever seen someone with no signs at all? I bit my lip. Emily did look radiant to an unbelievable degree, but she was always meticulous about her appearance. I shook my head, not wanting to follow this path. Not everyone's the same. Some women carry pregnancy with barely any changes. David glanced at me. Fine, but have you ever actually touched her belly? Since she announced. I opened my mouth to reply, then stopped. Every hug she'd angled away. The gender reveal photos she stood 3/4 turned, hand covering her belly. The shopping trip for baby clothes she refused to try on maternity dresses, saying she wanted to keep it a surprise. A memory flashed vividly. 2 months earlier, Emily and I went shopping for baby items at an upscale boutique in downtown Portland. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if performing. When I picked out a cute cotton onesie and suggested she try on some dresses, she just laughed. Why bother? I'll get bigger. I'll shop next month. I didn't think much of it then. Emily was a planner, but now, looking back, her entire journey from announcing the pregnancy to the shower lacked any clear proof of a life growing inside her. Anna, David said, his voice softer. I don't want to hurt you, but I'm a doctor. In that nursery today, I saw every item still in its box, unopened. No signs of actual preparation for a birth. I didn't respond. My mind raced with images, Emily declining my offer to join her for an ultrasound. Dodging questions about her OB/GYN, always vague about her due date. But this was Emily, the person who was there for me in first grade when I lost my dad, when I graduated, when I got married. How could I think she'd lie to me? And why? Maybe she's hiding something for a reason, I whispered. Maybe she didn't want to share too soon. Or she's scared. David didn't reply. A breeze brushed through the car window, stirring my hair. I wondered how long had I not asked questions. How long had I assumed a decades-long friendship was unshakable proof? As we turned onto the highway south, the sunset painted an orange streak across the windshield. The car's air felt thick, no longer with anger, but with trembling doubt. What do we do? I asked, my voice hoarse. David looked at me, then back at the road. Find the truth. Carefully, and you need to prepare yourself. If you followed this story from the start, you're probably asking the same question I did. If David's right, if Emily isn't pregnant, what is she hiding, and why? Before we go on, I invite you to hit the follow button and share your thoughts below. What could drive a woman to build an elaborate lie around a child that doesn't exist? And if you were me, would you dare return to that house for answers? 2 days after the shower, I texted Emily early in the morning. I think I left my green scarf there. Can I swing by to grab it? Her reply came instantly. I'm not home this morning. Got a doctor's appointment downtown. Lily's there, just stop by. Part of me hoped she'd say no, but she didn't. So I drove back to that quiet street where the purple balloons still floated listlessly in front of the house, like a fading echo of that day. The door opened after 2 light knocks. Lily, Emily's younger sister, stood there in pajamas, her hair in a messy bun. Anna, I didn't know you were coming today. Emily said you'd be home. I left my scarf. Lily nodded, hesitating slightly. It's probably in the living room. Go ahead and look. I stepped inside. No more twinkling lights, no laughter, no lavender scent in the air. The house felt like a stage after the curtain fell empty and cold. I pretended to search the living room, my eyes catching small details, unopened gift bags, piled up guest name cards, scattered unwashed glasses. I noticed an open bottle of red wine and a half-empty glass next to a plate with leftover steak. Party leftovers, I asked casually. Lily glanced at the table. Oh, my brother-in-law's. He had a late dinner last night. She paused. Emily ate something else. She doesn't drink. Pregnant, you know. A simple statement, but wrong. If Emily wasn't home last night, why did Lily speak as if she was? Or worse, if Emily was there and drank wine, David's suspicions were starting to feel more terrifying. I nodded, pretending not to catch the slip. I'll check upstairs, maybe I left it in the nursery. Lily hesitated, then nodded. Sure, I'll tidy the kitchen. I climbed the stairs, my heart racing. The nursery had dazzled me with its perfection last time. Now it sent a chill down my spine. The plush rug was still unrolled. The crib had its tags and seals intact. The breast pump sat neatly in a corner, still boxed. The closet door was ajar, revealing baby clothes, with price tags still attached. Everything untouched. I approached the changing table. My hand brushed its edge, and something fell, caught behind the panel. I crouched and saw a small, faded blue notebook. I picked it up. The cover read simply, "My beloved daughter." I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. March 12th last year. You're not in my belly yet, but I already feel you. I know you'll come. I know because every morning I wake up hearing you call in my chest. I flipped through the pages letters Emily wrote to a child who never existed. Some were hopeful, describing days she imagined pushing her daughter in a stroller. Others were angry. They say, I'm delusional. They don't know I had you and lost you. The writing grew messier toward the end, as if written in panic. Everyone believed. They sent money. They sent gifts. They looked at me like I was special. Just a little more. Just a little more, and I could make it work. I closed the notebook, trembling, and slipped it into my coat pocket. A wrong act, I knew, but I needed to take a piece of the truth with me. I went downstairs. Lily was wiping the counter, her eyes flickering with caution when she saw me. Not up there. Probably left it in the car. Thanks, Lily. Sure, I'll tell Emily. I nodded and stepped outside. The door closed behind me, and in my pocket, the diary of a childless mother, of a mind teetering on the edge between grief and deception, burned like fire. If you've ever held a piece of someone else's memory, a diary, a letter, a recording, and felt it could unravel your entire world, you'll understand how I felt that night. Before I continue, if you're still with this story, please hit the follow button. I want to know, is Emily trapped in delusion or orchestrating a calculated scam? Share your thoughts. What you see might differ from what I'm about to tell. David was at the dining table, still in his white coat, when I walked in. I said nothing, just pulled the notebook from my pocket and placed it before him. His eyes met mine, cautious, unhurried. He opened the cover. I poured 2 cups of tea, my hands trembling slightly. When I returned, David had read nearly a third of the diary. No expression. No conclusions. Just flipping pages with the silent precision of a doctor performing an autopsy. And you found this, where? Behind the changing table in the nursery. David nodded slowly. Not meant for prying eyes. But this goes beyond privacy. I sat across from him, unsure if I wanted to hear what came next. What do you think I asked? Is she delusional or staging a performance? David paused. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Some people deceive others with a script they've written. Others deceive themselves first, then pull others along. He flipped to the page I'd read where Emily wrote that everyone believed, and just a little more. This line is intentional, David pointed out. She knows she's steering people's trust. I shivered, recalling the times Emily invited me over only to cancel at the last minute. Always a reasonable excuse, dizzy-tired schedule change. But now were they all to keep me at a distance? And the untouched baby items, I whispered. Not used, not opened. Like a display. David nodded, and the diary written like a preparation sequence, as if she's creating an alternate world. But it's calculated. We sat in silence for a long time. The ticking of the microwave clock sounded like a countdown. I clenched my hands. I don't want to believe it. But what we've seen? It's too clear. David placed his hand on mine. We don't have the full picture yet. But the pieces are starting to come together. I nodded. But my heart wasn't at ease. Something still wasn't enough. Not undeniable proof. I leaned back, opened my phone, and scrolled through old texts with Emily. The past few weeks her messages were disjointed, but consistent in one thing, thanking me for always supporting the charity project. The project, it hit me. New Hope Foundation, I said. Her nonprofit for supporting low-income mothers. David raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? She said most of the nursery items were donated by sponsors, for promotion. Did you see anything promotional there? No logos, no sponsor plaques, just expensive, unopened items. I paused. Remember at the shower when you were texting and standing back? David nodded. I was watching a man near the gift table. Looked like a doctor. His eyes on Emily were concerned. FaceTimed you 2 weeks ago. You were glowing. I froze.
You mean,
Exactly. That call was her breaking the news. You were so happy for her. I swallowed hard, the memory vivid. And you didn't think anything was off. Not then. I was caught up in the moment. But looking back, there were signs. I leaned forward, my voice low. Like what? Her glow was almost too perfect. No swelling, no fatigue, no prenatal quirks. And the nursery, everything staged, nothing touched. I sat back, my mind racing. So, what now? David's expression hardened. We dig deeper. If she's lying, it's not just about us. It's bigger. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling, clutching the diary in my drawer. My heart was a tangle of betrayal and empathy. Emily, my friend of 20 years, who held my hand through my own miscarriage, who cried with me when I couldn't conceive after my first year of marriage. Could she really be using that same pain to craft a lie? I turned to David asleep after a long shift and an anxious evening. I touched his hand lightly. Tomorrow, I whispered into the dark. We'll find the truth. From the root. Some meetings don't begin with a greeting, but with a silent question. Was there ever anything real between us beyond memories? If you followed this story from the start, keep walking with me by hitting the follow button. What I'm about to tell isn't the end, but the door to a truth I feared facing. And if you've ever stood before a lifelong friend, unsure who they are anymore, this chapter is for you. A week after David read the diary, Emily texted me, "Meet me at the cabin. Just us. I need to speak the truth." The cabin by Lake Morrison was where our childhood lived. Endless summer days of laughter, flashlights, melting ice cream, and promises scrawled in chalk under the wooden porch. Part of me didn't want to go. The other part knew I had to. I drove for 40 minutes through roads once familiar, now starkly foreign. The cabin emerged through dense pines, still with its gray shingles and weathered wooden door. But Emily's white SUV parked out front made it feel like the present, no longer a sanctuary for two girls who thought the world revolved around them. I stepped out, taking a deep breath. My heart pounded erratically. The door opened before I could knock. Emily stood there. No maxi dress, no elaborate makeup. Just a simple white sweater hair tied high her face so pale I had to suppress a gasp. "You came," she said, her voice not a greeting, but an acknowledgement. I nodded and stepped inside. The cabin was silent. The smell of old wood mixed with faint mint, likely from a cold tea on the table. Emily sat in an armchair hugging her knees. I sat across from her, not touching anything. The silence stretched over a minute. Then she spoke. "You read it, didn't you?" "I didn't deny it. I didn't have a choice." Emily nodded, her lips trembling slightly. "I guess David knows everything, too. We only know what you left behind. Not enough to understand it all." She gave a joyless smile. "Because the rest is in my head, and my head isn't clear anymore." I clasped my hands together. "Then start. From the beginning." Emily looked at me. "Do you remember the day I told you I was pregnant?" I nodded, over FaceTime. "You wore a cream robe. Radiant. That was a week after I miscarried." I froze. I never told anyone but Michael. I'd known I was pregnant for 8 weeks. We planned to keep it quiet until it was safer. But that morning, blood. And then just emptiness. She inhaled, her hands clutching each other as if holding on to the imagined shape of a child that never formed. I sat on the bathroom floor for 4 hours, unable to cry, unable to scream, unable to feel anything. Her voice was steady, but in my eyes, tears silently welled. "I meant to tell you. But that day, you shared your promotion at the counseling center. Everyone was happy for you. I didn't want to take that away. And I couldn't bear another pitying look." My throat tightened. "So you said nothing." Emily nodded. "At first, I just pretended a little. To a few people. Then I thought if I kept saying I was pregnant, no one would ask about the loss. I went still," she continued. "Then there was a meeting for New Hope. A new donor came. They'd lost a child at birth. They looked at me, heard me talk about my pregnancy, and cried. Then signed a transfer. I thought if this pain could help someone, it's worth it, right?" She gave a strained laugh. But then it spiraled. The congratulations, the gifts, the shared posts. It was like a vortex. I didn't know where to stop. I closed my eyes. The nursery flashed in my mind, lavish, perfect, but soulless. "Emily, did you ever plan to tell the truth?" "Yes. Many times. But every time I picked up the phone, saw people's eyes, I got scared. Scared they'd hate me. Scared I'd lose everything. A beat of silence. Then she whispered, I'd never felt so valued as when people thought I was carrying life. When I was cherished, treasured for something I no longer had. I got addicted to that feeling. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just felt empty. You know this can't go on. Emily nodded. I know, but I couldn't stop myself. I needed someone to stop me. I looked at her, seeing no trace of her usual defenses. Just a woman grieving fragile, broken in her own performance. There's a thin line between compassion and manipulation. Sometimes the one who crosses it isn't malicious, but too desperate to stop. If you've walked with me this far, thank you for daring to journey through the shadows of a bond I thought unbreakable. Hit the follow button if you haven't, and tell me what mistakes can be forgiven, and where's the point of no return. I returned from the cabin with a cluttered mind and a laminated list of New Hope Foundation donors handed to me by Emily's trembling hands, as if passing over a burden too heavy to carry. In my office, my fingers traced the names. Nearly 30 donors, media companies, baby clothing stores, individual charities. One name stopped me, Penelope Graves. Edward Graves Memorial Fund. I'd met Mrs. Graves at a gala for families who'd lost newborns. An elderly woman with ash-gray hair, always carrying a scarf embroidered with EG. I remembered her saying, you can survive loss, but you're never the same person again. I dialed her from an old business card. She answered after 3 rings, her voice raspy but strong. This is Anna Walker. We met at the Bright Futures Gala last year. I'm with the counseling center. I remember you, Ms. Walker. Your voice hasn't changed. I gripped the phone tighter. I'm verifying donations to New Hope Foundation. Can you share why you supported Emily's organization? Silence. Then a sigh. Ms. Emily visited me 3 months ago. She said she was pregnant with a girl and would name her Edwina after my husband. A living legacy, she called it. I closed my eyes. How much did you donate, if I may ask? $5,000, and some medical supplies through another sponsor. But her voice lowered. I never got a thank you note. No photos of the baby or updates. I started to wonder. Mrs. Graves, it's possible the baby never existed. She didn't respond. I heard wind whistling through her window over the line. I'm sorry if this hurts you. I'm old, Ms. Walker, not blind. Thank you for calling. The call ended, leaving a cold, metallic feeling in my chest. I looked at the list again. Another name, Morales family. Luna Memory Fund. Noted donated car seat and premium baby clothes. I opened Facebook, searching Morales with Luna. A post appeared, baby Luna passed at 2 days old. We started this fund to help other mothers avoid our pain. And a photo, Emily standing beside them, hand on her belly, smiling. Caption, can't wait for Luna to meet Edgard, her little brother-to-be. Edgard. Again, a name of the departed given to a child that wasn't real. I folded the list. It robot. It was no longer just a list. It was an indictment. That evening I sat with David in the living room. The lamplight cast shadows over the diary I'd read nightly, searching for something to excuse her. You were right, I whispered. This isn't just delusion. It's deliberate emotional manipulation. David didn't look triumphant. He just placed a hand on my shoulder. Emily used empathy as currency. She knew people wanted to believe because everyone needs a miracle. And she became that miracle. And I believed. I said, a sad smile. Not because I'm naive. Because I needed to believe a lifelong friendship couldn't crumble over one secret. David squeezed my hand. This is more than friendship. It's about ethics, about societal trust. I nodded. But part of me still wanted to ask if Emily's pain was real, if she started with grief and slid because she didn't know how to stop. Could it still be called a mistake? Or just desperation warped? Part of me wanted to protect her. The other part couldn't. I opened my laptop, started writing a memo, a report. Not sent anywhere. But the truth in indelible words. She didn't deceive me with tricks. She deceived with emotions. By making me recall my own pain, then tying it to her. And when I saw her carry that pain, I dropped my guard. I saved the document, shut the laptop. Stepped onto the balcony where the night cloaked the sky. Light from a neighbor's nursery window softly illuminated a plastic giraffe. I saw it anew, real, but not alive. One thing I learned, social media isn't just where people share their stories. It's where truth lies, and outrage blur, and no one knows the line until it explodes. If you've followed from the start, keep going with me. Hit the follow button. What do you think of online justice? Someone exposed publicly. Do they still have a chance to start over? 2 weeks after the cabin meeting on an ordinary morning while I brewed coffee, a colleague texted, "Have you seen it, Emily?" I opened my phone. The screen flooded with screenshots from a long Reddit post in the Scams Uncovered forum. The title blazed in all caps. "Woman fakes pregnancy to profit from our compassion. The Emily B. story." Below were photos from the baby shower. Comments poured in. "Can't believe it, I donated to her." Using dead people's names for a non-existent child immoral. This is why I never support personal charities. The post by an anonymous account was chillingly detailed New Hope Foundation's name, donor list, nursery photos, diary excerpts, the very pages I'd read. I dropped the phone. It felt like someone had ripped my thoughts and spread them publicly, without permission. The news spread like an Oregon summer wildfire. 3 hours after the post, New Hope's accounts were tagged everywhere. 4 major donors issued statements cutting ties. 2 lawyers demanded refunds. A women's nonprofit condemned all forms of compassion abuse. Day 2, a local news channel ran a brief fake pregnancy scandal rocks charity community. Emily's face was blurred, but anyone who knew her recognized her. Day 3, New Hope's bank account was frozen. Over $72,000 was held pending review. Hundreds of comments flooded the page, curses, accusations, the harshest words for a once beloved woman. I couldn't look away, nor could I join in. I didn't share, didn't comment. I just watched, feeling dissected myself. 4 days post-exposure. Michael, Emily's husband, filed for separation. His text to me was one line. "I tried, but I can't save someone who doesn't want saving." Emily vanished since that day. Her phone was unreachable. Lily, her sister, quietly locked her social media, withdrawing from groups. The baby shower house stood shuttered. No lights, no cars, no sound. That silence was scarier than any accusation. It made me wonder who wrote that post. Not me, not David, but they knew too much. The diary excerpts, the donor list. Day 6. An anonymous email hit my counseling center suggesting Mrs. Anna Walker, once Emily B.'s best friend, may have known beforehand. I read it 3 times, not for the content, but for its familiar tone, cold, sharp, accusatory. I was summoned to a board meeting. They didn't accuse, but they demanded an explanation. I told the truth, all of it. From David's initial doubts to the cabin meeting and the silence after. I didn't hide, but the truth didn't make it easier. Leaving the meeting, a colleague's look shifted, not trusting anymore, but half doubt, half pity. A look I never wanted to get used to. That night in my office, I stared at the blank screen, unable to write a word. I thought of Emily. No one knew where she was. Neither did I, but I felt something irreparable was coming. I opened an email drafting to her, not to blame, just to write. "If you're still reading, speak, just once, before it's no longer yours." No reply came. Sometimes a knock in the rainy night sounds like the moment life changes forever. If you're still here, thank you for staying. Hit the follow button if this story touched something in you. And I ask, if someone who deeply hurt you returned in weakness, would you shut the door or open your heart? A month after the fateful post, I eased back into work. The world seemed to move on, but my disorientation lingered. I came home early, avoided social media, and stopped saying Emily's name in conversations. That night, it poured. Oregon's rains aren't fierce, but they're relentless, heavy like unnamed sorrow. I was pouring water when I heard a knock. 3 sharp raps. Not rushed, but not hesitant. I opened the door, and there under the porch light stood Emily, soaked. Mud-stained coat hair matted to her forehead. Her face bare, so pale, I barely recognized her. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just looked at me as if her eyes carried every unspoken apology. I stood frozen. "Come in," I said, stepping back. Not out of forgiveness, but because I couldn't leave my old friend in the rain. Emily entered. I handed her a towel, not asking why she came or where she'd been. She sat by the fireplace, shivering slightly. We both stayed silent, as if sound itself was too heavy. After a few minutes, I gave her a mug of hot ginger tea. Her hands trembled as she took it. "I have no one else to turn to," she said softly, her voice dusty. I didn't respond. She didn't need me to confirm it. "I've been at a motel outside town. Didn't dare use my real name. Didn't turn on my phone. I read everything. Every comment. every curse. I thought I was already dead. I sat still, arms crossed, not avoiding but not embracing. My emotions were like thin ice, intact but not melting. "I'm not here to beg forgiveness," she said. "I know I don't deserve it. I came because I don't know what to do next." For the first time, I looked straight at her. No more performance, no perfect mother role, no kind founder act. Just a broken woman. The rawest Emily I'd ever seen. "Speak," I said softly. "What do you want from me?" She stared at her hands, her voice barely a whisper. "Tell me what to do. I'll do it." Part of me wanted to scream too late. The hurt's too deep. The trust is gone. But another part, the one that loved Emily with all the sincerity of youth, just asked, "Do you truly want to fix this, or just want forgiveness to breathe easier?" Emily looked up. For the first time, tears fell. "I want to fix it, no matter how long, no matter if no one believes. I just want something decent in me again." I exhaled long and heavy. This was the moment to choose close every door, or leave a crack open for something however faint to begin again. "Fine," I said. "Not today, not in my house. But if you're serious, there's a place to start." She looked up, eyes wet, and nodded silently. We sat there long, saying nothing more. Just the rain outside dripping from the eaves and the faint warmth of the fireplace smoldering. I didn't know what lay ahead for us. But that night, I didn't shut the door. And maybe sometimes healing starts with a small act like that. Some truths can't be spoken in closed rooms. They need to be said in the light, before eyes that once trusted, once hurt, and still await an answer. If you've listened this far, thank you for staying till the truth's threshold. Hit the follow button if you haven't, because I believe after every fall, what remains is the ability to stand and say, "I was wrong." Do you think a confession can mend what's been lost? Oregon's City Hall opened early. Outside, dozens of reporters' tripods with cameras cables snaking across walkways in ceaseless murmurs. A simple wooden podium stood before the entrance where Emily would speak. No one forced her to do this. No law required it. But Emily had said clearly that rainy night, "I want to say it myself." Not a lawyer. Not you. Me. I stood behind the podium with David. Neither spoke. The scene felt cut from a slow dream where the most private painful things were dragged into public light. Emily stepped up, still in her simple white sweater, hair neatly tied, no makeup, face pale but eyes steady. She adjusted the mic, and then before hundreds she began. "Hello everyone, I'm Emily Brookstone." A few cameras flashed, some stood silent. "I'm here today not to beg forgiveness. I'm not sure I deserve it. I just want to tell the truth, something I should have done months ago." She took a deep breath. "I was never pregnant. The baby wasn't real. I miscarried once, and instead of facing that loss, I chose to pretend. At first for myself, then for attention, then for donations. I knew it was wrong. I take full responsibility." Murmurs rose below. Emily kept her voice calm, but her eyes reddened. "I apologize to every person who trusted me, especially Mrs. Penelope Graves, the Morales family, the Luna Fund, and all other donors. I used their painful stories to build a lie. I will repay every cent I received." An older man stepped from the crowd. I recognized him, a New Hope supporter. He said nothing, just stared at Emily, his expression unreadable. She met his gaze, then bowed deeply. "I don't expect anyone to believe this apology, but I'll do everything to atone not once, but for the rest of my life." A moment of silence. Then she nodded slightly, stepped off the podium. No running, no bowing, no haste. Just a woman walking through her own mire, choosing the public path. The community reacted instantly. News outlets ran divisive headlines. "Woman fakes pregnancy, criminal or victim of herself." Shocking confession between rage and empathy. Some cursed her. Some sent threats. But others wrote, "I thought she was a monster." Today, I saw a human. On social media, Emily's speech video spread thousands of times. Angry comments, but also lines like, "She doesn't need our forgiveness. She needs a chance to start over." A week later, a preliminary court hearing. Emily's lawyer detailed the repayment process, her cooperation, and full confession. The judge issued a 3-year suspended sentence, full restitution, and mandatory therapy for 24 months. Emily left the courtroom without a media swarm. No one's hand to hold. No smile. But she held her head up. And I, standing far off, watched silently, not with forgiveness, but with recognition. That night, Emily texted me, "Thanks for standing behind me, not to catch me, but so I could step into the light myself." I stared at the message long, then replied, "The next part won't be easy, but if you truly want it, there's a place to begin again. I once thought every beautiful start came from joy, but now I know sometimes what drives us to build something good is the pain that hits rock bottom. If you've walked this journey to its end, I thank you with all sincerity. Hit the follow button if this story deserves to spread. And tell me, do you believe in rebirth, not of a person, but of a belief?" 3 months after Emily's public confession, the city had mostly forgotten her name. But for me, the echoes remained not in anger or regret, but in a persistent question. How do people like Emily and those hurt by an Emily find a place to start again healthier? I began planning Second Light not a relief organization, not just a therapy space. I envisioned a safe haven where women could come after unnamed losses, a miscarriage, a broken bond, a mental collapse only they understood. David was the first I shared it with. He listened silently, then placed his hand on mine. "I think you've found what you need to do." I wrote a detailed proposal, sent it to community health organizations and donors who knew Emily's case. I expected rejection, but no. A Bright Futures representative wrote back, "We've seen deceit, but that day we also saw something rare courage. We believe if anyone can turn pain into a healing tool, it's you." On Second Light's opening day, the June air was clear, gentle, like a quiet cosmic blessing. The small building on a quiet street painted cream bore a hand-carved wooden sign, "Second Light, a second glow." Inside, I kept it simple. No leather chairs or velvet curtains. Just plants, burlap-upholstered seats, and warm golden light from the ceiling. A meditation room, a reading nook, a large space for a group therapy. The opening wasn't grand. About 40 people, friends, partners, a few former patients, and Emily. She arrived early. White shirt, deep green skirt. No makeup, but her eyes brighter than I'd seen in a year. She hugged me light as a memory. "I know some don't want me here," she whispered. "But I'm not here for forgiveness. I'm here so no one on the path I lost walks alone." I nodded. "Just speak truth. The rest doesn't matter." The first session began. I introduced each guest, then turned to Emily. And finally, I invite someone not for achievements, but for the courage to face herself. Emily stepped up. The room went still. She didn't look at notes, didn't need them. She just spoke, gently, unflinching. "I lost a child once, and instead of accepting it, I created an imaginary one. I used it to draw sympathy, to feel valued. But I didn't see that in chasing life, I was choking my own chance to live." No one interrupted. No one turned away. Some bowed their heads. Some held hands beside them. She continued, "The day I confessed publicly, I thought my life was over. But really, that's when the shell broke, and I began living, no longer hiding." A young woman in the group sobbed. Emily stepped down, said no more, just sat quietly in the back row, as if being there was the greatest reward she could hope for. After the session, a journalist asked me, "Why choose Emily as your first speaker?" I answered, "Because I wanted people to see that even those who've erred most can be a light for someone in the dark." She jotted it down, nodded. But I knew the story didn't need media to carry it. It would spread quietly, heart to heart. That evening, after everyone left, Emily and I sat together. She asked, "Do you think anyone's forgiven me yet?" I looked at her, then shook my head gently. Forgiveness isn't what you chase. What you need is to live so truly no one has reason to hate you anymore. She nodded. Not sad, just accepting. And in that moment, I knew we weren't the Anna and Emily of 20 years ago. We were two women trying to keep themselves and others from being swallowed by darkness. Some rooms you enter not to listen, but to witness the impossible and old self, reborn, not by magic, but by the courage to speak the whole truth. If you followed to this final chapter, you haven't just heard a story, you've lived it. Hit the follow button if you believe telling one's story raw and true is a form of healing. And tell me, can someone who caused great harm become someone who helps others heal? Emily's handwritten letter arrived one August afternoon. Thin paper, small, soft script, as if each word hesitated before finding courage to land. It wasn't long. Not ornate. Not dramatized. Just, "I was wrong, utterly, inexcusably. But I know without you, I'd never have stood on my true feet. I owe you not thanks, but a new life. I'll use it right. I folded the letter, didn't cry, just sat silently long. A week later, Emily's old organization, once New Hope, officially dissolved. Legalities settled after months of investigation and negotiation. What surprised me wasn't the speed, but the organization's will signed by Emily. She declared all remaining assets after reparations would support Second Light. No name in any tribute section, no conditions. I read the document thrice. Not from disbelief, but because I knew she'd chosen right this time, not silence, not cover up, but letting truth live on through something useful. Summer ended with late rains. I drove alone to the old cabin by Lake Morrison where it all began. Wind whispered through pines, the lake still as glass. I brewed mint tea, sat on the porch, and reopened my first notebook, where I'd penned the initial lines of Second Light. Everything was different now, but also truer me. I thought of Emily, our youthful years, her first belly laugh in class and her last sitting rain-soaked, saying, "Tell me what to do." I'll do it. I didn't regret keeping that friendship even when it hurt, because I believe no light is perfect without passing through some darkness. On the table, I set an old photo, 2 20-year-old girls' hair wild, grinning bright, holding melting ice cream in Oregon's first summer. I didn't want to forget, the best or the worst, because ultimately it all shaped me today, someone who no longer demands perfection from others, but demands truth for herself. I wrote one final line in the notebook closing this chapter. Some don't need a child, they need a reason to love themselves again. And perhaps that reason isn't far off. It's in being seen fully, not shunned, not despised, not idealized, and still chosen to stay. I stepped onto the porch, letting afternoon sun bathe my face. No more dense memories. No more outside judgments. Just me and what I believe. We don't need to become someone else to deserve forgiveness. We just need to be real enough to deserve a new start. After closing this story, I believe what lingers isn't just a tale of two friends' turmoil, but a profound reminder of truth's value of courage, and above all, of forgiveness. We've witnessed a woman who refused to face loss slid into lies, yet chose to stand to atone, to step into light. And beside her a friend imperfect but patient enough not to turn away. This story doesn't condone covering mistakes, but shows when truth is met with humanity, the impossible can heal. If this story touched a part of your heart, don't hesitate to comment, share your thoughts, or simply hit the follow button. Because perhaps your small empathy is someone's second light. Thank you for listening to the very end.